हेलो फ्रेंड्स, कैसे हैं आप सभी। टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट लेक्चर 2 और चैप्टर 2 ऑफ द पॉलिटी घटनाचक्र 2023। ये चैप्टर कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली एंड द मेकिंग ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है। सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल वी विल रीड द इंफॉर्मेशन दैट इज गिवन एंड देन वी विल सॉल्व द MCQs. नाउ लेट्स स्टार्ट द चैप्टर. Now, the first formal demand for Constituent Assembly was made by the Swaraj Party at the conference in Ranchi held on May 1934. So it means that Swaraj Party ने सबसे पहले डिमांड की थी for a formation of Constituent Assembly to frame the Constitution. The idea of Constituent Assembly was put forward first time by M.N. Roy in the year 1934. Now, M.N. Roy is an important figure. ध्यान रखना आप. He is the founder of Communist Party of India. CPI was founded in year 1925. Also, he was the author of the journal named Vanguard. ठीक है, it was a communist journal. तो ये भी आप ध्यान रखना. M.N. Roy is an important figure. The Indian National Congress officially demanded a Constituent Assembly to frame the Constitution of India for the first time in the year 1934. In 1938, Jawaharlal Nehru, on behalf of INC, declared the Constitution of India must be framed without outside interference by Constituent Assembly elected on the basis of adult franchise. Demand was finally accepted in the August offer. This question is important, that the first time the demand of Constituent Assembly was accepted. It was in the August offer. The Constituent Assembly was constituted under the scheme formulated by the Cabinet Mission Plan. Cabinet Mission Plan came in the year 1946, in which there was a provision to make a Constituent Assembly. Number of representatives from provinces was based on their population, one representative per 10 lakh people. So here सारी information is related about the elections and all that were conducted. Also, Constituent Assembly के जो elections थे to elect the members, that was on the basis of Act of 1935, Government of India Act. This is important thing. Now, a Constituent Assembly was a result of indirect elections. The elections was not based on adult franchise. According to Government of India Act, voting rights were limited based on the tax, education, property. The Viceroy invited and elected representative for the first meeting of the Constituent Assembly on 9 December 1946. The meeting was presided over by Dr. Sachidanand Sinha as temporary president. Later on 11 December 1946, Rajendra Prasad was unanimously elected as the president of the Constituent Assembly. It took 2 years, 11 months and 18 days. कई स्टेट PSC के एग्जाम्स में ये इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन आता है. It took around 2 years, 11 months and 18 days. It seems that it has not included the day of adoption. ठीक है, ये कुछ एक्स्ट्रा इन्फॉर्मेशन है. B.N. Rao was appointed as the constitutional advisor. This is important. 26 November 1949, the people of India adopted, enacted and gave themselves the Constitution of India. ठीक है, this is also important. And some of the provisions of the Constitution came in force on 26 November, but the complete Constitution came into force on 26 January 1950. Okay. Now, interim government was formed on 2nd September 1946. However, it did not include any member of the Muslim League. Finally, 26th of October 1946 को 5 members of Muslim Leagues were also included in the cabinet. Now, this is an interim cabinet. Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabh Bhai Patel, Rajendra Prasad. एक बार आप इसको देख लेना. Just glance through it once. And now we'll move straight away to the questions. Who gave the idea of the Constituent Assembly firstly for the formation of Constitution of India? Correct answer is Swaraj Party 1934. Who in the beginning presented the idea of Indian Constituent Assembly in pre-independence day? He was M.N. Roy. The proposal for framing the Constitution of India by an elected Constituent Assembly was made by Cripps offer. ठीक है, ध्यान रखना. With reference to proposal of Cripps Mission, consider the following. The Constituent Assembly would have members nominated by the provincial assemblies as well as princely states. And second statement is any province which is not prepared to accept the new constitution would have right to sign a separate agreement with British regarding its future status. So, second one is correct. First one is not correct. Okay. And what is the explanation to this? क्रिप्स मिशन की प्रपोजल क्या थे 1942 में? सेटिंग अप ऑफ ए डोमिनियन स्टेटस. Any province willing to join Indian Dominion could form a separate union and have a separate constitution. A constituent assembly would be formed to frame new constitution. The assembly would have members elected by provincial assemblies and nominated by princely states. Now, as per cabinet mission plan, the constituent assembly to decide allowed members seat in each province. One representative was in ratio of population of 10 lakh. Who among the following person was not a member of cabinet mission? William Wood was not a member. Who were the members of cabinet mission then? Pethick Lawrence, Stafford Cripps, A.B. Alexander. These all were the members. Now, Indian Constituent Assembly was established under cabinet mission. In the interim government formed in year 1946, the vice president of the executive council was Jawaharlal Nehru. Who of the following was not a member of the interim national government formed in the August? Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. The first interim national government was announced on 24th August 1946. Okay, let's see the explanation here. According to the cabinet mission declaration, an interim government was constituted on 2nd September from the newly elected Constituent Assembly. Okay. अनाउंस हुई थी 24 अगस्त 1946 को एंड इट वाज फॉर्म्ड ऑन 2nd September 1946. Now, this is a question based on assertion and reason. According to the Wavell plan, the number of Hindu and Muslim members in the Executive Council was to be equal. Wavell thought that this arrangement would have avoided the partition of India. So, A is true, but R is not true. ठीक है, they never intended to avoid the partition. ठीक है, let's see the explanation here. 1943 में लॉर्ड वेवल सक्सीडेड लॉर्ड लिलिंगथो as viceroy, made an attempt to resolve the deadlock in India. ठीक है, he proposed restructuring of the Governor General Executive Council which would have balanced the representation of main communities. All the portfolios except defense were to be held by Indian members. ठीक है, the reason is false. Okay, it did not intended to avoid the partition. Which of the following statements are true in relation to Constituent Assembly? It was based on adult suffrage, which is wrong. The assembly was the result of direct election, wrong. Multi-party body, assembly worked through various committee. 3 and 4 seems to be correct. So the correct answer to this is 3 and 4. It was not based on adult suffrage and it was not based on direct elections. Which of the following statements regarding Constituent Assembly are correct? It was not based on adult franchise. बिल्कुल सही है ये. It resulted from direct election. This is false. It was not a multi-party body. It is false. It worked through several committees. So A and D probably are right. So A is the correct answer. Which one among the following is incorrect about the Constituent Assembly? It worked with the help of large number of committees, the most important of them being the drafting committee. बिल्कुल correct. ड्राफ्टिंग कमेटी का चेयरमैन कौन थे? डॉक्टर B.R. अम्बेडकर. Minorities communities like Christian, Anglo-Indian, Parsis were adequately represented in the. It was elected on the basis of universal adult franchise. This is wrong. Members of the Constituent Assembly who drafted the constitution were, so they were elected by the legislative assemblies of various provinces. ठीक है, 292 members were elected through the provincial legislative assembly and 4 were represented by the chief commissioner province. With reference to Indian history, the members of the Constituent Assembly from the province were elected by the provincial legislative assembly. Now next is, how were the member of Constituent Assembly elected? So they were elected by the provincial assemblies. Who was the first chairman of the Constituent Committee? So Rajendra Prasad. Temporary chairman was Dr. Sachidanand Sinha. Now next is, who chaired the first meeting of Constituent Assembly? Dr. Sachidanand Sinha. The first session of the Indian Constituent Assembly was chaired by Dr. Sachidanand Sinha, and then Rajendra Prasad was made as the permanent chairman. Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected the chairman of Constituent Assembly in, so the correct answer to this is December 1946. Who was the chairman of the Constituent Assembly of India? Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Who was the president of Constituent Assembly? बिल्कुल repeated question है. Who was first nominated deputy chairman of the Constituent Assembly? Frank Anthony. एंड फ्रैंक एंथनी के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन एक बार देख लेना, हो सकता है पूछ ले. ही सर्व्ड एज ए नॉमिनेटेड मेंबर ऑफ द लोकसभा फॉर 7 terms. Constituent Assembly was established on, it was established on 9 December. First meeting was held on 9 December. First session held on 9 December. When was Constituent Assembly established? So it was established in December 1946 on 9 December. First session of held 9 December. When did the Indian Constituent Assembly meet for the first time? It was on the 9 December. In which meeting of the Constituent Assembly of India did Jawaharlal Nehru laid down the objective resolution? So it was fifth meeting of Constituent Assembly. And objective resolution पे क्या बेस्ड है हमारा? objective resolution पे हमारा preamble based है, and preamble is a part of constitution. ठीक है, and it has been amended one time. कब amend हुआ है? By the 42nd Amendment Act. Now, the resolution for giving a constitution to India was adopted by the Constituent Assembly on, so the correct answer is 22nd January 1947. So on 22nd January, a resolution for Constitution of India was unanimously adopted by the Constituent Assembly. Now, who proposed the preamble before the drafting committee? So Jawaharlal Nehru, he proposed the objective resolution. Who of the following presented the objective resolution? Jawaharlal Nehru, and he was also the president of INC during the Lahore session 1929, where Purna Swaraj was accepted as a goal of Congress. Now, next is in relation to formation of Constituent Assembly of India, which of the following is or are correct? The resolution of objectives by Nehru affected the making of Constitution. बिल्कुल करेक्ट है. Preamble fulfills various important and objectives. Correct. People of India ordered या directed the Constitution. Head of the state is elected by the people directly. The fourth statement is wrong. 1, 2, 3 is correct. So fourth statement means head of state कौन होता है हमारा? तो head of state is President of India, and he or she is indirectly elected by the elected members of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, member of legislative assemblies of state and legislative assemblies of Delhi and Pondicherry. ठीक है, इन यूटीज़. बाकी प्रेसिडेंट के रिगार्डिंग और इन्फॉर्मेशन हम प्रेसिडेंट के जब प्रेसिडेंट चैप्टर हम करेंगे वहाँ पे डिस्कस कर लेंगे. हाउ मेनी सेशंस ऑफ द Indian Constituent Assembly were conducted for the formulation of Indian Constitution? So 12 sessions were conducted. Mention the correct date of the last meeting of the Constituent Assembly. So last meeting was on 24 January 1950. How much time the Constituent Assembly took to frame the Constitution of India? So it took around 2 years, 11 months and 18 days. Now we have to match the list here. Directly देख लेते हैं ताकि आपको याद हो जाए. First Vice President of Constituent Assembly, H.C. Mukherjee, and he was also member of Drafting Committee. Drafting Committee which was chaired by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. The only Congress member of Drafting Committee, K.M. Munshi. Representative of Rajasthan Princely State, Krishnamachari. Chairman of Union Constitution Committee, Jawaharlal Nehru. Constitutional advisor at the time of formation of Constitution was Sir B.N. Rao. First draft of Constitution was prepared by Sir B.N. Rao. When was the third reading of the Constituent Assembly started? So the third reading of the Constitution by the Constituent Assembly started on 17th November 1949. The Constitution of India was completed on 26th November 1949. Indian Constitution was adopted by the Constituent Assembly on 26 November 1929. Some of the provisions were applicable from 26 November only, and rest of the provisions came into effect on 26 January. Okay? Thus 26 January is considered as a enforcement date of constitution. Now constitution was adopted by the Constituent Assembly on 26 November 1949. The Constitution of India was adopted on which date? 26 November. Constitution of India came into force on 26 January. So ये आप ध्यान रखना कि the Constitution was adopted on 26 November 1949 and it came into force on 26th Jan 1950. January 26 was selected as the date of inauguration of Constitution because the Congress has observed its Independence Day in 1930. The Constitution Day is celebrated on 26 November. The Indian Constitution was adopted by Constituent Assembly. The Constitution of India was enacted on 26 November 1949 by the Constituent Assembly and it was established by Cabinet Mission Plan. Cabinet Mission in the year 1946. The Constitution of India was adopted and enacted on 26 November 1949. Now, B.R. Ambedkar was elected to Constituent Assembly so he hailed from Bombay Presidency. Year of birth and death of Dr. Ambedkar, 1891 was the year of birth and 1956 was the year of death. Consider the following statements. The discussion in the third roundtable conference eventually led to the passing of the Government of India Act. Bilkul correct. The Government of India Act 1935 provided for the establishment of All India Federation to be based on a union of provinces of the British India and the princely states. Bilkul correct. Both 1 and 2 are correct. Now next is the Constitution of India provides for all the necessities of the country. Bilkul correct. It is also known as adopted constitution. So 2 is also correct, but R is not the reason for A. So B is the correct answer. Deferment of adult franchise for 15 years was advocated in Constituent Assembly by Maulana Azad and Rajendra Prasad and Jawaharlal Nehru supported for its adoption. Who amongst the following advised that the Indian National Congress should be disbanded as a political party after the independence of India? So it was Gandhi ji who said this, that National Congress should be disbanded. Which one of the following said a constitution like a machine is lifeless thing? It acquires life because of the men who control it, and India needs today nothing more than a set of honest men who will have the interest of the country before them. So it was Rajendra Prasad. In their nationalist reaction, the founding fathers of the Indian Constitution tended to minimize the importance of minorities' interests and emotions. The view is credited to Ivor Jennings said this. Constituent Assembly was Congress and Congress was India. Who said this? Austin said this. Granville Austin. How many women members were there in the Indian Constituent Assembly? It is an important question. 15 members were there. Now, important committee of the Constituent Assemblies, ये भी कर लेते हैं साथ में. Union Constitution Commission, Jawaharlal Nehru. Rules of Procedure, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Steering Committee, Drafting Committee. Steering Committee and Rules of Procedure, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Drafting Committee, as I said, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. Advisory Committee for Fundamental Rights, Minorities and Tribes, Excluded Region, तो सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल. Fundamental Rights Subcommittee, J.B. Kriplani. Minority Subcommittee, Union Power Minority Subcommittee, H.C. Mukherjee was also member of Drafting Committee. And Union Power Committee, Jawaharlal Nehru. Provincial Constitution Committee, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Now let's solve the questions. Who among the following was the chairman of Union Constitution Committee? Correct answer is Jawaharlal Nehru. Who was the chairman of Provincial Constitution Committee? Sardar Patel. So mainly इनका काम था around 449 के around. Now let's do the second part of this chapter, important committees of the Constituent Assembly. Now, Union Constitution Committee was headed by Jawaharlal Nehru. Committee on Rules and Procedure was headed by Rajendra Prasad. Steering Committee was headed by Rajendra Prasad. Drafting Committee by B.R. Ambedkar. Advisory Committee for Fundamental Rights, Minorities and Tribes, Sardar Patel. Fundamental Rights Subcommittee by J.B. Kripalani and Minorities Subcommittee by H.C. Mukherjee. He was also a member of Drafting Committee. Now, Union Powers Committee by Jawaharlal Nehru and Provincial Constitution Committee by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Now, let's proceed to the questions. Who among the following was the chairman of the Union Constitution Committee of the Constituent Assembly? So, Jawaharlal Nehru is the correct answer. Who was the chairman of the Provincial Constitution Committee of the Constituent Assembly? Sardar Patel. Chairman of the Drafting Committee was B.R. Ambedkar. Who was the chairman of Drafting Committee? B.R. Ambedkar. Now, Fundamental Rights Committee was headed by Steering Committee, Union Committee, Drafting Committee. So, Drafting Committee was headed by B.R. Ambedkar. Fundamental Right Committee by Sardar Patel. Steering Committee by Rajendra Prasad. And Union Power Committee by Jawaharlal Nehru. So, not all of the options are correct. So, यहाँ से आप टेबल एक बार देख लेना. Who was the chairman of Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights and Minorities constituted by the Constituent Assembly? So, Sardar Patel is the right answer. Now, Drafting Committee of the Constituent Assembly under Dr. B.R. Ambedkar had how many other members? So, 6 other members were there. The name of 6 members is also important. The first one is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar as the chairman. Krishna Swami Iyer, K.M. Munshi, Muhammad Sadullah, B.L. Mittal and D.P. Khaitan. N. Madhav Rao was included, replacing B.L. Mittal, and T. Krishnamachari was included after the death of D.P. Khaitan. Who among the following were the members of Drafting Committee? Gopalaswamy, it is correct. Jawaharlal Nehru is not correct. Ayyedi Krishna Swami Iyer is correct. 4 is not correct. So 1 and 3 is the correct option. Now, who amongst the following was not a member of the Drafting Committee of the Constitution? Jawaharlal Nehru was not a member, else all of them were the members. The Constituent Assembly set up a Drafting Committee under the chairmanship of B.R. Ambedkar on. So, it was conducted on 29th August 1947. Who was the chairman of National Flag Committee? It is a unique and important question. आ सकता है. So, Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the chairman of Flag Committee. With this, our chapter has ended. Part 3 में we will do the sources of the Constitution. Till then, you can revise part 1 and part 2. Thank you.